She's a climate warrior. He's an oil heir. Their online war just went nuclear, and they're now roommates. The eviction notice was plastered on the crumbling brick facade of 27 Sycamore Street, like a particularly aggressive fungus. Anya Sharma slammed her worn backpack onto the cracked linoleum counter of her tiny kitchen, the sound echoing in the hollow space most of her neighbors had already fled. Dust motes danced in the weak afternoon light filtering through the grimy window. Condemned due to structural instability, the notice declared, the ultimate irony for a building housing activists fighting the crumbling foundations of the planet itself. Planet over Profits HQ, her friends jokingly called it. Now it was just another casualty of neglect. Priced out of existence? Anya muttered, scrolling through rental listings on her buzzing phone. Gentrification had swallowed the city whole, leaving affordable crumbs only in neighborhoods miles from her community gardens and organizing hubs. Despair, cold and heavy, settled in her chest. Where did a broke, furious climate warrior go when her own battleground collapsed? Then, like a single stubborn sunflower pushing through concrete, an ad flashed. Sunflower cottage, room for rent. Quiet, off-grid sanctuary. Utilities included, reasonable rate. Contact Leo, tech consultant. A grainy photo showed a charming, slightly ramshackle cottage nestled in wooded hills, solar panels glinting on the roof. Off-grid. The phrase was a siren song. And the price? Suspiciously, miraculously affordable. A lifeline, however frayed it looked. Across the city, ensconced in the sterile opulence of the Sterling Tower penthouse, Leo Sterling stared out at the skyline, a tumbler of expensive scotch untouched beside him. His father's voice, sharp as a diamond drill bit, still echoed in his ears. Need boots on the ground, Leo. Understand their tactics, their grievances. That land near Maggie's place. Potential reserves under the conservation blather. Perfect cover. And while you're at it, Arthur Sterling had leaned forward, his gaze predatory. Get inside the head of that rabble-rouser, at Eco-Fury. She's becoming a nuisance. Find her pressure points. Leo felt the familiar cage tighten. He was heir to PetroMax, architect of climate chaos in at Eco-Fury's scathing memes, and a reluctant participant in his family's carefully curated PR machine. At Real Talk Leo, his supposed online persona, was a polished shield, a weapon wielded by faceless PR executives to dismiss alarmist keyboard warriors. He hated the caricature, hated the complacency it projected, but the path of least resistance was paved with sterling oil money. His Aunt Maggie's unexpected plea to house-sit her beloved sunflower cottage while she underwent treatment offered a bizarre escape route. Anonymity, a chance to breathe air not filtered through boardroom agendas, and, conveniently, proximity to the land his father coveted. Just a tech consultant needing some quiet, he murmured to his reflection, practicing the lie. It tasted bitter. The city's concrete jungle gave way to winding roads flanked by towering pines. Anya's ancient hatchback groaned up the final hill, packed to the gills with her meager possessions, boxes of books on sustainable agriculture, protest banners rolled tight, seedlings in recycled containers precariously balanced on the passenger seat, and her most vital tool, her laptop, the conduit for at Eco-Fury's fury. The scent of pine resin and damp earth replaced exhaust fumes. Sunflower Cottage appeared, bathed in late afternoon light. It was more beautiful than the photo. Weathered wood, climbing roses, a riot of wildflowers bordering a meticulously kept vegetable garden. Solar panels hummed softly on the roof. Sanctuary, Anya thought, a knot of tension loosening slightly. She wrestled a heavy bin full of rich, dark compost out of the car, determined to nourish this place immediately. As she staggered towards a likely spot near the garden, the cottage door opened. A man emerged, tall, effortlessly put together in soft chinos and a linen shirt, dark hair slightly tousled. He looked like he'd stepped out of a catalog for relaxed tech bro getaways. His smile was charming, practiced. "Hey there, you must be Anya? I'm Leo, welcome." He moved towards her, hands outstretched. Here, let me grab that recycling for you. Recycling? Anya froze, horror dawning. No, these are too late. His hands closed on the bin. In his attempt to be helpful, he tilted it awkwardly. The precious seedlings, nurtured from seed in her condemned apartment's meager light, tumbled out onto the gravel path, their tender roots exposed, soil spilling. "Oh shit, sorry," Leo exclaimed, genuinely dismayed but also sounding frustratingly flippant. He crouched, fumbling with the delicate plants. Anya's sanctuary shattered. The stress of the eviction, the precariousness of her life, the sheer waste of it all ignited her fury. "Don't touch them. Just leave it." Her voice was sharp, trembling with suppressed rage. She dropped to her knees, frantically scooping soil, her fingers stained dark. "These aren't trash. They're food. Life." Leo recoiled, hands raised, the charming mask slipping into confusion and a flicker of defensiveness. "Look, I said sorry. It was an accident. I just thought—" "What? That anything in a bin is disposable?" Anya snapped, not looking up, her focus entirely on salvaging the seedlings. "Typical." "Typical?" Leo echoed, his own practiced ease hardening. "I was trying to help." "Help?" She finally looked up, her dark eyes blazing. "Help looks like asking first, like understanding what you're dealing with, not assuming." The intensity radiating from her was almost physical, a stark contrast to his cultivated calm. Their gazes locked, fire meeting ice. The air crackled with mutual, instantaneous dislike. Leo saw only brittle anger. Anya saw only privileged carelessness. The peaceful hillside suddenly felt charged and claustrophobic. Later, in the shared silence of the cottage's small living area, the tension was a tangible third presence. Anya had claimed the slightly smaller bedroom, unpacking with furious efficiency. Leo pretended to work on his laptop at the rustic dining table, the screen displaying innocuous code while his mind raced. The woman was intense, exhausting. He could practically feel the judgment radiating from her down the hall. He needed a distraction, a way to vent the frustration coiling in his gut. He opened a secure browser. At Real Talk Leo. His PR team had already drafted a response to @EcoFury's latest broadside, a brilliantly vicious meme skewering PetroMax's evergreen initiative. Juxtaposing slick forest imagery with satellite photos of fresh Amazonian deforestation PetroMax had indirectly funded. The draft response was patronizing corporate speak. Leo, still smarting from Anya's typical barb, his frustration seeking an outlet, added a personal sting. Another day, another oversimplified meme from the eco-alarmist brigade. Keyboard warriors like @EcoFury love slogans but lack understanding of the complex realities powering our world. Real change requires nuance, not childish finger-pointing and economic illiteracy. Real talk, energy reality. He hit send before he could overthink it, a petty jab at the faceless enemy that somehow felt directed at the furious gardener down the hall. Simultaneously, in her room, Anya saw the notification, at Real Talk Leo's dismissive words, mocking her life's work, calling her childish, illiterate. After the eviction, the seedling disaster, the infuriatingly calm roommate, it was the final spark. Fury, white-hot and focused, flooded her. She didn't just respond, she weaponized. She accessed a secure Dropbox, fingers flying. Internal PetroMax documents, not the ones she usually leaked about emissions, but land surveys. Documents detailing geological assessments near Sunflower Cottage, marked confidential, proposing exploratory drilling disguised as ecological conservation studies. She crafted a post with surgical precision. Speaking of greenwashing, PetroMax's latest conservation effort? More like conservation. Docs reveal they're protecting the hillside ridge area, near where I happen to be staying, is just a smokescreen for scouting new drill sites. Hypocrisy, planet over profits, sterling lies. She tagged at Real Talk Leo, media outlets, environmental groups. Sent. The digital explosion was instantaneous. Likes, shares, comments erupted like a volcano. At Real Talk, Leo's mentions flooded with outrage and support. Media alerts pinged on phones across the city. The online war, simmering for months, had just gone thermonuclear, fueled by the unwitting proximity of its architects. Back in the cottage, the silence deepened, thick enough to choke on. Anya emerged from her room, face set in grim satisfaction, radiating a fierce energy. Leo looked up from his laptop, his screen now a chaotic stream of notifications from the PR team demanding crisis management. He saw Anya's expression, the righteous fury, the familiar intensity he'd witnessed over the seedlings. A strange, unsettling feeling prickled at the back of his neck, a dissonance he couldn't place. "Everything okay?" he asked, forcing his voice into casual neutrality, the practiced charm a flimsy shield against the sudden, inexplicable tension in the room and the digital storm raging online. Anya's gaze flickered over him, seeing only the annoying tech consultant. "Peachy," she stated flatly, heading towards the kitchen for water. "Just dealing with some corporate vermin." Leo watched her go, the PR team's frantic messages flashing on his screen, the vitriol directed at EcoFury suddenly feeling uncomfortably personal. He glanced at the closed door of Anya's room, then back at the online firestorm. The charming off-grid sanctuary felt impossibly small, charged with secrets and hostility. Two strangers, locked together by circumstance, each nursing private wars that had just violently intersected in the digital ether, utterly unaware they were sharing a roof with their most hated enemy. The quiet hum of the solar inverter was the only sound in the heavy, expectant silence. The silence in Sunflower Cottage wasn't peaceful. It was a battleground of unspoken resentment. Anya moved through the shared spaces like a wary ghost, her movements efficient and sharp, radiating disapproval. Leo retreated into his tech consultant persona, burying himself in his laptop, a convenient shield against both the online firestorm he'd inadvertently fueled and the palpable hostility emanating from his roommate. The chirping notifications from @Real Talk Leo's account felt like physical jabs, each one a reminder of the gulf between his manufactured online self and the man awkwardly sharing a kettle with the woman whose memes were currently eviscerating his family's legacy. He saw her name trending alongside Sterling Lies, a digital brand of shame he couldn't escape, even in this supposed sanctuary. Days bled into each other, a tense dance of avoidance punctuated by necessary clipped exchanges. "Coffee? Fine. Trash day. Got it." The cottage, designed for tranquility, amplified every sigh, every clatter of a dish. Anya poured her fury into Maggie's garden, attacking weeds with a vengeance, her hands finding solace in the damp earth. Leo watched her sometimes, unseen from the kitchen window. The intensity that had grated on him during their first meeting was mesmerizing when channeled into nurturing life. He saw the reverence in her touch as she cradled a tomato seedling, the fierce concentration as she pruned an overgrown rosebush. It was a side of eco-fury he'd never imagined, not just destruction, but deep, patient creation. One evening, the suffocating silence was broken by an unexpected sound. Haunting, melancholic notes drifted from the living room. Leo, seeking solace, had unearthed an old acoustic guitar from a closet. His fingers, stiff at first, found familiar patterns on the fretboard, playing a mournful, obscure folk ballad his mother had loved, a relic from a life before sterling obligations. He closed his eyes, losing himself in the melody, the practiced ease of the tech consultant falling away, replaced by a raw, unguarded vulnerability. Anya, returning from the garden, stopped dead in the hallway. The music wasn't just familiar, it was a direct line to her childhood, to a coastal town now swallowed by rising tides. Her grandmother used to sing this very song. Without thinking, a soft harmony escaped her lips, tentative at first, then gaining strength, weaving perfectly with the guitar's lament. Leo's eyes snapped open. He hadn't heard her approach. There she stood, silhouetted in the doorway, dirt smudged on her cheek, her voice clear and surprisingly gentle, filling the spaces between his notes. The fierce activist was gone. In her place was just Anya. For a suspended moment, the online war, the secrets, the mutual dislike vanished. It was just two people, connected by a shared melancholic melody in the quiet of an off-grid cottage. The last note hung in the air, heavy with unspoken connection. Their eyes met, his wide with surprise, hers softened with unexpected recognition. A flush crept up Anya's neck. She mumbled something about checking the rainwater tank and vanished. The ice hadn't cracked, it had developed a hairline fracture, letting in a sliver of unexpected light. The garden became neutral territory then, slowly, a bridge. Leo, intrigued despite himself, started appearing when Anya worked. He'd hover awkwardly at first, asking hesitant questions. Why do you prune that one so hard? To encourage stronger growth lower down, Anya explained, her voice losing its usual edge. It looks brutal, but it's for the plant's good, she demonstrated, her movements sure and gentle. Here, feel this stem, see how sturdy it is now? Tentatively, Leo reached out. The rough texture of the stem, the cool dampness of the soil beneath his fingers, the quiet focus Anya brought to the task. It was grounding in a way his sterile, high-stakes world never was. He started offering to hold tools, to carry watering cans. He learned the difference between a weed and a seedling, the names of Maggie's heirloom tomatoes. Anya found his clumsiness oddly endearing, his genuine curiosity disarming. He wasn't the careless tech bro she'd labeled him. He listened. He learned. One afternoon, a freak summer storm rolled in, turning the sky an ominous green. Rain lashed the cottage windows. Midway through Anya explaining companion planting, marigolds to deter nematodes, the lights flickered violently and died. The hum of the solar inverter ceased. Darkness swallowed the cottage, broken only by flashes of lightning. Power outage? But it's solar, Anya exclaimed, frustration warring with concern. Her laptop, her connection to at EcoFury, was her lifeline. Leo, moving with surprising purpose in the gloom, found a stash of candles and matches. Probably a surge protector tripped or a loose connection in the battery bank. Happens sometimes. His voice was calm, practical. I'll check the system after the storm passes. Should be an easy fix. He lit several candles, their warm, flickering light casting dancing shadows on the walls, transforming the cottage into an intimate, ancient-feeling space. They sat at the small dining table, the storm raging outside, the candlelight softening their features. The forced closeness, the shared vulnerability of the dark, loosened something. Storms like this, Anya murmured, watching the rain sheet down the window. They used to scare me, now they just make me sad. The words slipped out, raw and unexpected. Leo looked at her, the candlelight catching the pain in her eyes. Sad? Where I grew up, she said, her voice low. Coastal village, beautiful, then. Bigger storms, higher tides. One winter, the sea just took it. Our house, my grandmother's garden, gone. Just foundations left, like rotten teeth. She traced a pattern in the condensation on the table. That's not weather, that's consequence. The unspoken accusation hung in the air, but it was laced with profound grief, not the usual fury. Leo felt a pang of guilt so sharp it stole his breath. He knew PetroMax's role in that consequence, the relentless push for profit over prudence. He saw the human cost, not as a statistic in a report, but etched on Anya's face in the candlelight. He couldn't reveal his identity, but he couldn't stay silent either. I understand feeling trapped, he offered carefully, choosing his words like stepping stones. Not by the sea, but by expectations. By a life laid out for you that feels suffocating, like you're living someone else's script in a gilded cage. He stared into the flame. Sometimes you look around and wonder, is this all there is? Just maintaining the cage? Anya studied him. The flippant tech consultant was gone. This was someone else, someone vulnerable, adrift. The shared melody, the quiet work in the garden, and now this confession. It painted a picture she hadn't anticipated. He wasn't just apolitical, he was lost. The ideological enemy momentarily faded, replaced by a complicated, intriguing man. The fracture in the ice widened. The thaw was treacherous. As their real-world connection deepened in the cottage's intimate bubble, the online war raged with escalating ferocity. At Real Talk, Leo's PR team, alarmed by EcoFury's land document leak and her growing influence, launched a calculated smear campaign. Anonymous sources, PetroMax-funded bloggers, began circulating rumors. Is EcoFury truly independent? Sources suggest funding from rival conglomerate Solaris Dynamics, aiming to discredit PetroMax for market gain. AstroTurfing, follow the money. Anya, at EcoFury, saw the posts over breakfast, her oatmeal turning to ash in her mouth. The accusation was ludicrous, infuriating. It undermined everything she stood for. Listen to this garbage, she spat, shoving her phone towards Leo, who was buttering toast, his heart pounding. He knew exactly where this was coming from. They can't argue the facts, so they attack my credibility. Typical at Real Talk Leo spin. Leo flinched, the name hitting too close to home. He fought to keep his voice neutral, to be Leo the tech consultant. Maybe consider the source? It's probably just noise. The hypocrisy tasted vile. Noise designed to drown out the truth, Anya retorted, eyes blazing. People believe this crap. It muddies the water. She stormed off to her room, slamming the door. Minutes later, Leo heard the furious clatter of her keyboard. At EcoFury struck back, not just denying the rumors, but releasing another batch of internal PetroMax emails, these detailing explicit plans to lobby against stricter emissions regulations, emails Leo himself had seen and felt sickened by. His anonymous leak, sent through a secure channel days prior, hoping she'd find it, had landed. The online battlefield grew more toxic, more personal. At Real Talk, Leo's account, now fully managed by the aggressive PR team, fired back, mocking at EcoFury's sanctimonious hypocrisy and selective outrage. The cognitive dissonance became almost unbearable for Leo. One evening, he passed Anya's slightly ajar door. She was hunched over her laptop, bathed in the screen's blue glow, crafting a graphic. It featured Arthur Sterling's face, digitally superimposed onto an oil-slicked penguin, with the caption, "Sterling's Legacy, Profit Over Planet, Every Single Time. Oil heir, climate criminal, planet over profits." Seeing his father's face, seeing Anya's focused intensity directed at this caricature of the man who was his burden, made him physically ill. He knew the graphic was brutal, effective. He also knew, with a sinking dread, that the woman creating it was the same woman whose quiet singing had haunted him days before. The disconnect was dizzying. He backed away silently, unseen, the lie coiling tighter around his heart. Yet, in the daylight, away from screens, the connection sparked and grew. They debated fiercely, but differently now. Over dishes one night, Anya passionately argued for immediate, radical systemic change. Incrementalism is suicide. We need a complete overhaul now. Leo, drying a plate, countered, not with Real Talk Leo's dismissal, but with frustrating pragmatism. But how, Anya? Millions rely on that system now. Transitioning entire economies, retraining workforces, building new infrastructure. It's monstrously complex. Shutting off the tap overnight causes different kinds of devastation. He spoke with a surprising depth of understanding about energy grids, supply chains, the inertia of massive systems. Anya paused, soapy sponge in hand, genuinely startled. You know a lot about this. For a tech consultant. Leo shrugged, a practiced mask slipping back on, but not before she saw the flicker of something deeper. Read a lot. Follow the news. He changed the subject quickly. But your point about moral imperative, that's harder to argue against. He met her gaze. The cost of not acting radically, it's unimaginable. It was a concession that surprised her. He didn't dismiss her urgency. He acknowledged its weight while grappling with the messy reality. Their arguments became collisions of idealism and pragmatism, fire and ice, but underpinned by a growing, reluctant respect. They challenged each other, pushed each other's thinking. Anya saw nuances she'd previously ignored in her righteous fury. Leo felt the uncomfortable prod of her unwavering moral compass. The land near the cottage became the flashpoint. Aggressive developers, likely tipped off or funded by PetroMax interests Leo's father was courting, started harassing Maggie. They left threatening notes about underutilized assets, made lowball offers, even dumped construction debris near the property line. Anya, fiercely protective of Maggie's sanctuary and the surrounding wild ridge, confronted them one afternoon. Two burly men in mirrored sunglasses dismissed her, one shoving her back when she stepped too close to their survey markers. "Hey, back off!" Leo's voice, sharp and commanding, cut through the tension. He'd been splitting wood nearby and dropped the axe, striding over. He didn't touch the men, but his presence, his sudden shift from laid back to intensely authoritative, was startling. He didn't shout, but his voice was ice-cold steel. "You're trespassing. You assaulted her. Leave, now, or the next call isn't to the local sheriff. It's to my contacts at the state attorney general's office regarding harassment and illegal dumping on protected watershed land." He named a specific attorney, a name that carried weight. The developers exchanged uneasy glances. Leo held their gaze, radiating an unspoken threat backed by connections Anya couldn't fathom. Muttering curses, they retreated to their truck and sped off. Anya stared at Leo, breathing hard, adrenaline coursing through her. He'd stepped in without hesitation. He'd been formidable, protective. The anger at the developers mingled with a surge of something else entirely, intense, overwhelming attraction. He turned back to her, the cold authority melting into concern. "Are you okay? Did he hurt you?" "No, I'm fine." Her voice was shaky. The space between them crackled, charged with the aftermath of conflict and the undeniable pull that had been building for weeks, through shared music, quiet gardening, candlelit confessions, and heated debates. The awareness of each other was suddenly electric, unavoidable. The hostility was gone, replaced by something hotter, more dangerous. He reached out, his thumb brushing a smudge of dirt from her cheekbone, a touch so gentle it stole her breath. "You shouldn't have to deal with scum like that alone." The last thread of restraint snapped. Anya surged forward, capturing his lips with hers. It wasn't gentle, it was desperate, hungry, a collision of weeks of suppressed tension and burgeoning connection. Leo responded instantly, his arms wrapping around her, pulling her close, the kiss deepening with a raw intensity that mirrored the storm inside them both. It was fire and need, a shocking, transformative fusion. And then, as abruptly as it began, it ended. They pulled apart, gasping, staring at each other with wide, startled eyes in the sudden quiet of the woods. The blissful haze of the kiss evaporated, replaced by crashing waves of guilt and horror. Anya's mind screamed. "I kissed him. I kissed someone who thinks climate change is just noise, while I'm waging war online. Hypocrite, traitor to the cause." Leo's mind reeled. "She kissed me. She kissed the heir to everything she hates. I'm deceiving her every second. This is a betrayal she can never forgive." The warmth of the moment vanished, leaving a chilling void. The lie, momentarily forgotten, now loomed larger and more poisonous than ever. Without a word, they turned away from each other, the unspoken truth a crushing weight on the fragile bridge they'd built. The sanctuary of Sunflower Cottage felt like a prison built on deceit. The slow burn had ignited, but the flames threatened to consume everything. The kiss hung between them like a detonated bomb, leaving only wreckage and silence. The fragile intimacy of Sunflower Cottage curdled overnight into a suffocating atmosphere of avoidance and unspoken recrimination. Anya retreated into furious online activism, the clatter of her keyboard a constant accusatory soundtrack. Leo drowned in the digital fallout of the escalating war he'd helped ignite, the @RealTalkLeo notifications a relentless drumbeat of hypocrisy. The physical space they shared became a minefield. Passing in the narrow hallway felt charged with electric tension. Shared meals were silent, agonizing affairs. The memory of the kiss, the shocking rightness of it followed by the crushing wrongness of the lie, was a ghost haunting every room. Anya poured her confusion and guilt into protecting Maggie's land. She organized local residents, held meetings in the cottage living room, her passion reignited by the immediate threat. She felt like a fraud, kissing Leo while raging against everything he, in her mind as the apolitical consultant, represented. So she channeled that dissonance into action, determined to prove her commitment to the cause. Leo watched her, torn apart. He saw her exhaustion, the fierce determination, the vulnerability beneath the armor. He admired her, he craved her, and he despised himself. He tried subtly steering the PR team away from personal attacks, but they were in full crisis mode, operating with Arthur Sterling's ruthless directives. At Real Talk, Leo became a weapon Leo could barely recognize, let alone control. Then came the post. Late one night, drafted by the most aggressive PR strategist and approved by Arthur himself, at Real Talk, Leo tweeted, "Sentimental attachment to undeveloped land ignores economic reality, the energy needs of real people. Progress requires difficult choices, not clinging to useless parcels based on misplaced nostalgia. Forward-thinking energy security." It was clearly aimed at the growing local resistance near Sunflower Cottage, dismissing their fight as emotional foolishness. Anya saw it first thing in the morning. The words useless parcels and misplaced nostalgia burned into her retinas. After everything, the kiss that felt like a betrayal of her principles, the developer's threats, Leo's confusing mix of apathy and unexpected depth, this was the final insult. It felt personal. It was personal. It was at Real Talk, Leo spitting on Maggie's sanctuary, on her sanctuary, on the community fighting to preserve it. The guilt over kissing Leo evaporated, incinerated by white-hot rage. This was war, and she would fight it on the ground. "Right," she muttered, her voice dangerously calm. She grabbed her phone, her live-streaming rig, and a handmade sign reading, "Protect the Ridge, no PetroMax drilling." She didn't look at Leo as she stormed out. Leo awoke to the buzzing of his encrypted phone, frantic calls from his father and the PR team. He checked at Real Talk Leo's feed, saw the inflammatory tweet, and felt a surge of nausea. He knew instantly Anya would see it as a declaration of war on everything she was fighting for locally. He scrambled out of bed, pulling on clothes, a sense of impending doom tightening his chest. He found her live stream already trending. At Eco Fury was broadcasting from the ridge overlooking the contested land near Sunflower Cottage. Wind whipped her hair around a face set in fierce determination. Behind her, a small but growing crowd of locals held signs. Her voice, amplified by a small speaker, rang out clear and passionate, cutting through the mountain air. "This isn't about nostalgia," Anya declared, the camera panning to show the wild beauty of the ridge. Ancient oaks, wildflowers, a sparkling stream. "This is about preserving a vital watershed, about protecting biodiversity, about saying no to corporations like PetroMax, who see land only as a resource to exploit, communities as obstacles to bulldoze." She pointed towards the direction of the developers' earlier encroachment. "They call this useless, they call our fight misplaced. Look at it. This is what they want to turn into another sacrifice zone for profit. We won't let them." The chat scrolled furiously. Support, outrage, shares skyrocketing. Leo watched, mesmerized and horrified by her raw courage, her ability to galvanize people. Then, his blood ran cold. Down the access road, black SUVs emblazoned with the discreet logo of Sterling Security Solutions, PetroMax's private contractors, rolled to a stop. Men in dark uniforms emerged, moving with intimidating purpose towards the protest line. His father hadn't waited. He'd sent enforcers. Anya saw them too. Her voice didn't waver, but her eyes widened slightly. "See? They don't debate. They intimidate. They send private security to silence community voices." She turned the camera towards the approaching figures. "The world is watching, PetroMax. The world sees your true face." The security detail reached the edge of the protest. A burly man stepped forward, grabbing the megaphone from a startled elderly woman. "This is an unlawful assembly on private property. Disperse immediately," he barked, his hand hovering near his belt. Chaos erupted. Protesters shouted back. Someone pushed. The security guard shoved back harder. Anya, still live streaming, stepped between the guard and the elderly woman. "Don't touch her. We have a right to be here. This is public access land." The guard loomed over her, his expression cold, his hand now firmly on a non-lethal device on his belt, a taser or pepper spray. Leo watched the live stream feed on his phone, his heart hammering against his ribs. He saw Anya's defiance, the guard's aggression, the terrified faces of the locals. He saw the land, his aunt's land, the land he'd walked with Anya, the land he now saw not as potential reserves, but as something precious and vital. He saw Anya, not at Eco Fury, the nemesis, but Anya, the gardener who sang folk harmonies, who grieved for her lost home, who kissed him with desperate need. And she was about to be hurt by men paid by his family. The gilded cage shattered, the path of least resistance vanished. The moment of truth wasn't a boardroom decision, it was here, now, on this windswept ridge. He dropped his phone and ran. Anya held her ground, the phone trembling slightly in her hand, the lens focused on the guard's menacing stance. "You think your uniforms and your threats scare us?" she yelled, her voice raw. "We know what you represent. Stop!" The shout wasn't loud, but it cut through the din like a knife. Leo burst through the line of protesters, breathing hard, his hair disheveled, his usual composed facade utterly gone. He didn't hesitate. He stepped directly between Anya and the guard, facing the PetroMax security detail. "Stand down, now!" His voice wasn't the calm authority he'd used with the developers. It was raw, commanding, laced with a fury that stunned even Anya. He locked eyes with the lead guard, who recognized him instantly, confusion warring with ingrained obedience. "Mr. Sterling? Sir, we have orders to—" "I said stand down," Leo roared. He turned slightly, positioning himself protectively in front of Anya, his gaze sweeping the security team and the crowd, finally landing on Anya's live-stream phone. His face, pale and etched with desperate resolve, filled the screen. He took a deep, shuddering breath. "My name is Leo Sterling. I am the heir to PetroMax, and I order you to leave these people alone." The effect was instantaneous and catastrophic. Gasps erupted from the crowd. The security guards froze, utterly bewildered. Anya's phone slipped from her fingers, clattering to the ground, but the live stream kept rolling, capturing her face. Not defiance now, but utter, absolute betrayal. Her eyes, wide with shock and dawning horror, locked onto Leo's. Sterling. The name was a curse, a punch to the gut. The charming tech consultant, the man she'd kissed, the enemy she'd spent years fighting, they were the same person. The lie wasn't just heavy, it was annihilating. The digital world exploded. The hashtags EcoFury exposed and Sterling air defects began trending globally within minutes. News helicopters, already circling due to the protests, zoomed in. The peaceful ridge became a media circus, a cacophony of shouted questions and flashing lights. Anya stood frozen, staring at Leo, the world crashing down around her. Leo met her gaze, his own eyes filled with anguish and a desperate plea for understanding, knowing it was far too late. The sanctuary was gone. The truth was out. The inferno had consumed everything. Back at Sunflower Cottage, it was a tomb. The media frenzy remained at the ridge, held back by local police. Inside, the silence was deafening, thick with the residue of nuclear devastation. Anya stood rigidly by the cold fireplace, arms wrapped tightly around herself, as if holding her shattered pieces together. Leo leaned against the kitchen counter, looking hollow, the weight of his actions and their consequences pressing down on him. "You." Anya's voice was a low scrape, devoid of its usual fire, chilling in its emptiness. "Leo Sterling. All this time, playing house, playing." Her voice broke on the word, the memory of the kiss a fresh wound. How could you?" The dam burst. Was it all a game? A sick assignment? Understand the enemy? Get close to it, Eco-Fury? Did you enjoy it? Laughing at me behind my back while your PR team tore me apart online? No, Anya, God, no! Leo pushed off the counter, running a hand through his hair in anguish. It started as that, yes. My father wanted intel on the land. On you. But meeting you, being here, it wasn't pretend. None of it was pretend with you. Don't! She spat, flinching as if struck. Don't you dare! You lied. Every day, every conversation, She couldn't say it. The kiss burned between them. You knew who I was. You watched me rant about at Real Talk Leo. You saw me make those memes. Did you report back? Give them ammunition? Never. I tried to stop them, Leo insisted, desperation clawing at his throat. I hated it. I hated what they were doing to you. That smear campaign, the useless land post. That was my father, the PR team. I tried to push back. He took a step closer, then stopped, seeing her recoil. I leaked those documents to you, Anya. The emissions lobbying emails. The ones you used last week. I sent them anonymously. I wanted you to expose them. Anya stared at him, stunned. The anonymous source? The crucial leak? It was him? The cognitive dissonance was staggering. The enemy arming her? Why? She whispered, the fury momentarily eclipsed by confusion. Why would you sabotage your own company? Because it's wrong. Leo exploded, the frustration and disillusionment of years finally breaking free. Because I've known it was wrong for years. Because I felt trapped. Because living in that gilded cage, spouting their lies, funding their destruction, it was killing me. And then meeting you, seeing your passion, your integrity, even your anger, it made it unbearable. His voice cracked. The kiss, Anya, that was real. That was the most real thing I've felt in a decade. And the guilt after, it was because I knew I was deceiving you. I wanted to tell you 1,000 times. But I was a coward. Anya sank into a chair, her legs giving way. The oil heir, the privileged cynic. He was also the man who fixed the solar system, who learned the names of heirloom tomatoes, who shared her obscure folk songs, who understood the complexity of energy transitions, who protected her from developers, who leaked his own company's secrets. He was the symbol she'd demonized and the complicated man she'd started to care for. The hypocrisy wasn't just his, it was hers too. She'd fallen for the man while hating the name, proving the enemy wasn't a monolith. The realization was devastating. So what now, Leo? She asked, her voice drained. You're disowned. Your name is mud. You blew up your life. For what? For me? For some misguided guilt? For me, he said quietly, firmly. For finally doing something that wasn't cowardly. For trying to be someone I'm not ashamed of. He looked around the cottage, Maggie's sanctuary that had become theirs. The land, Maggie's land, the ridge. I won't let my father touch it. The fallout was seismic. Leo Sterling, heir to the PetroMax empire, publicly resigned. In a televised statement devoid of PR spin, he denounced the company's obstructionist tactics and greenwashing, citing his conscience and the need for genuine energy transition. He didn't mention Anya by name, but the context was unmistakable. He was immediately disinherited, cut off financially and socially by his furious father. But Leo Sterling wasn't destitute. He used a significant portion of his remaining personal trust fund, money untouched by PetroMax, to establish the Sunflower Ridge Community Land Trust, purchasing not only Maggie's cottage and the contested land, but also a significant buffer zone, placing it under permanent protection. He then launched the Just Transition Foundation, explicitly using his insider knowledge of the energy sector to fund and advocate for rapid, equitable shift strategies, focusing on retraining fossil fuel workers and community-owned renewables. The move was met with cynicism and cautious hope. Anya watched it all from a distance. She moved out of Sunflower Cottage immediately after the confrontation, finding a room back in the city. The EcoFury account went silent for a week. When she returned, it was different. Still fierce, still uncompromising on the science, still holding corporations accountable, but the tone shifted. There was less blanket condemnation, more focus on systemic levers and tangible solutions. She acknowledged the complexity Leo had forced her to see, without sacrificing her core demand for urgent, radical action. She became the lead coordinator for the newly established Sunflower Ridge Community Center, housed in a renovated barn on the protected land, focusing on sustainable agriculture workshops and climate resilience planning. She accepted Leo's funding for the center and the land trust. It was for the cause, not for him. But she needed space, oceans of it. Months later, autumn painted the ridge in fiery hues. Sunflower Cottage, now owned by the Land Trust and serving as a caretaker's residence and meeting space, stood serene under the crisp blue sky. Anya was checking on the progress of the new community greenhouse when she heard it. The familiar, haunting strains of that obscure folk ballad drifting from the cottage porch. She stopped, her breath catching. She hadn't seen him since the media storm subsided. She knew he was busy with the foundation, traveling, trying to build something meaningful from the wreckage. She'd followed his work, surprisingly effective, leveraging his connections for good. Slowly, she walked towards the cottage. Leo sat on the porch steps, his back to her, the old guitar resting on his knee. He played the melody cleanly now, without the hesitancy of that first night. It was the same song, filled with the same melancholic yearning. Anya stood at the edge of the garden, unseen. The past months had been a whirlwind of pain, anger, and hard-won clarity. The betrayal was a scar. The ideological chasm between an oil heir, even a repentant one funding renewables, and a frontline climate activist remained vast. Trust was shattered glass. But as the last notes faded into the quiet afternoon, something stirred. Not forgiveness, not yet. Not reconciliation, but a profound respect for the courage it took to blow up one's life. An acknowledgement of the complex, flawed humanity behind the labels they'd both worn and weaponized. Leo sighed softly, his head bowed over the guitar. Anya took a breath. Then, hesitantly at first, her voice soft and clear, she sang the harmony. The same notes that had first bridged the gap between strangers in the candlelight. Leo froze. He didn't turn around, but his shoulders relaxed infinitesimally. He waited a beat, then began the melody again, his playing softer now, an invitation. Anya didn't join him on the porch. She stayed where she was, among the sturdy stalks of late-blooming sunflowers. But she kept singing. Her voice wove with the guitar, filling the space between them, not the suffocating silence of deceit, nor the easy intimacy of before, but something new, fragile, uncertain, acknowledging the pain and the distance, yet finding a thread of connection in the shared melody, in the land they'd both fought for in their own ways. They didn't speak, they didn't need to. The song said enough. They were irrevocably changed, their paths diverging yet strangely parallel, their footprints forever altered by their collision. The future was unwritten, a complex landscape of systemic battles and personal reckonings. But on that sun-dappled porch, with the wind carrying their intertwined voices over the protected ridge, a single, fragile bridge of hard-won understanding and shared song spanned the abyss. It wasn't an ending, it was an ember. And embers, carefully tended, can defy the cold. Enjoyed the story? Like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss the next one.